Hi there, and welcome to this Introduction to Skylog video. I'm Jeremy Charles, N9VHT, the creator of Skylog. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the concepts that are necessary in order to use the software effectively. I'm producing this video in 720p specifically so that you can clearly read everything that's going on in the Skylog windows. If you're seeing blurry text, it might be because you're on a link that's too weak to support 720p, or you might have to let it buffer for a bit so that it catches up and then shows you the higher resolution, or you may have to click on the little gear icon in the lower right part of the window and force it to go to 720. Either way, once everything's working correctly, you should be able to read everything that I'm doing. So in order to get started, we're going to go ahead and get on to the demo system, which is the system where I test out new features and people can log in to try getting practice with the software. Basically anything we want to do without disturbing real production data. So here we are at the login screen for the demo system, and right away we encounter our first concept in Skylog, which is that of a user. A user is basically anybody with a login name and password who's actually going to be the person sitting in front of the computer interacting with Skylog. After we log in, we're presented with our next concept, and that is that of a group. A group is basically a container. It's how we separate different organizations, different events, different operations that use the same Skylog system. Basically, anytime somebody wants a clean slate to start working on, I create a new group in the system. Now, groups can be used a couple different ways. For example, the Chicagoland Skywarn Association uses the same group from year to year because they want their data from past years to be visible during the current year's operation. By contrast, we have separate groups for the Madison Marathon 2014, 2015, 2016, so on, because every time that event starts, it wants to have a clean slate to work on. On the demo system here, you can see we have several groups configured. The most popular one is Playground. That's the one that we generally do our playing around with, that pretty much anyone who wants to use Skylog gets access to do practice. I created a separate group here called Making Videos, specifically for this purpose. So that's the group I'm going to go into to do my demonstrations here. After I select the group that I want to work in, I land here, the incident summary screen, which of course begs the question, what is an incident? An incident is basically anything that happens. Say a spotter calls in and reports a half-inch hail or a funnel cloud or something like that. That could be an incident. A bicyclist calls in and says they wiped out and they need a SAG or a mechanic or maybe even an ambulance. That can be an incident. Or in the public safety sense, maybe you're just providing some units that are going to provide support for an outside event. Maybe the entirety of your support for that event could be one incident. It's really up to you as the user to decide how you're going to use incidents. One quick thing to point out about the incident summary screen, unless you're doing something like typing into this command or call sign field up here, this screen is going to reload about once every minute. This is how the older screens in Skylog refresh and show you up-to-date information. Newer screens with the black backgrounds actually use things like timers and JavaScript behind the scenes to update elements of the screen on the fly without having to refresh the entire screen. So there are actually two ways to create a new incident, and this is a recurring theme that you're going to see in Skylog. There, of course, is a link here on the screen that you can click called New Incident, or you can enter a command up here in this text box. For example, :ni will create a new incident and take us to the Edit Incident screen. There are lots of commands in Skylog that you can type in. They're called colon commands because they all start with a colon. That's how you tell Skylog that this is a command rather than just a piece of text that you're entering into a field. Now here in the Edit Incident screen, we can see we've got our new blank incident that we can start editing. The system has already defaulted in the current time, which is kind of handy, and now it's looking for the reporting station. This is done intentionally. Most things that you're going to enter as incidents are going to start out with somebody calling you and reporting something, or they're going to be requesting something. So let's say that station N9BBB is calling us to report something. Now this is where we get into the concept of Skylog keeping track of your stations for you. If I type in N9BBB and I hit tab, Skylog's going to come back and tell me that the station N9BBB doesn't actually exist. It's never seen it before. But if you want to create it on the fly, you can tack on a period on the end and it'll do so. So this is how I prevent a lot of junk from getting populated in the Skylog database. If you typo the call sign of a station, you just fix it and move on. If you're really sure that this is a correct station call sign that Skylog actually has not seen before, you tack on a period as if you're saying, well, it's N9BBB period. Go ahead and do it. So I do that, hit tab, and now it says, okay, N9BBB is a valid station now. I've created it on the fly. And he's calling and reporting that he's seeing half-inch hail. And the location of the reporting station, let's say is 2 miles northwest of Verona. Around here, the Skywarn nets use National Weather Service reference points, and you always give your location relative to the nearest reference point. So now, what Skylog has done, and in fact it's showing you this in the log entries that are updating here at the bottom of the screen, is that it has saved N9BBB as a station, and its last known location is 2 miles northwest of Verona. Now, this will come in handy when we come back in this instant or we enter more things with N9BBB later. But for now, we're going to say we've recorded what he's had to report to us, and we're going to click Done. We also could have just hit Enter, but effectively now we have saved that incident. Now let me go back in here to this incident we just created and show you a few things that you can do with the Edit Incident screen. First of all, when we go back into Edit an Incident that already exists, we get this button here, Edit Reporting Station and Location. So what actually happens is, behind the scenes, Skylog locks this incident, incident number 5, so that I'm the only user that can edit it. I won't conflict with anybody. But what it does not do is lock the reporting station, because we don't want to interfere with anybody else who may need to create a new incident that this station is calling in, or assign this station to handle a different incident. This basically helps to keep the peace among multiple users who are using Skylog at the same time. So if I want to edit the reporting station or change the location, maybe he says, oops, I was actually 3 miles northwest of Verona, I can hit this button, or I can tab to it and hit enter on it, and then I can actually go and change the attributes of the station that are in this incident. Another thing is the event time and how you can enter times. I pointed out earlier that the default value is the current time when you create the incident. I can, of course, type in any time of day I want. I can type in a full date, but I can also type in interesting things like, let's say N9BBB calls in and says, oh yeah, 10 minutes ago there was half-inch hail here. Well, I can type in minus 10 minutes and hit tab, and now Skylog will substitute in the time that was 10 minutes ago. Minus 20 minutes, let's say minus 2 hours. There are a lot of things that Skylog understands as far as times. Oops. So I can even say it happened tomorrow, at which point I get midnight tomorrow. But we'll go to the current time, which is now, and say 22:05. So that's the current time I happen to be recording this at. Another area that I want to introduce on the Edit Incident screen is the status of the incident. By default, all new incidents start out as closed because it's presumed, for the sake of speed, that you want to be able to log something and just move on and take the next call. But if an incident requires some sort of follow-up, say, it's a report you have to make sure you relay to the weather service, or it's a request for assistance that needs to get handled, you'll want to keep it open. So the most frequent option you'll probably use here is to just keep the incident open. And what that does is, when we go back to the incident summary screen here, keeps that incident up in the top part of the screen. It tries to draw your attention to the fact that something more needs to be done here. The highlighting on the incident is a function of how you set your preferences. So the idea is that the longer an incident is sitting here open on your summary screen, the more important it is for you to pay attention to the fact that, hey, this is still out here. You need to do something with this, or make sure it's getting handled or something, because someone's possibly waiting on you, or you've got some information here that's getting stale. So I'll come back to that in a little bit. For now, though, we have the incident set open, as you can see here. Another option is, something I used to like to do when I ran Skywarn nets. Whenever a warning would get issued, I would set it to automatically expire. So let's say I want to create a new incident, and I'm logging the fact that a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. And we'll say it's for Dane County. Now this is sort of a little bit of an abuse of the location of reporting station field. There is no reporting station in this case. This is just a piece of information. I suppose you could claim the NWS was the reporting station, but the reason I left it blank is so that I can just put anything I want in the location field here and it won't affect anything else. And let's say the severe thunderstorm warning expires at 23:30. So what's going to happen now is the severe thunderstorm warning will stay up here in my incident summary area until it expires at 23:30, at which point it'll be taken off my screen and it'll just be set to closed. Now, like I said before, this highlighting has to do with how you configure your preferences in order to call attention back to incidents that need to be handled. So if I click on the preferences link up here, I can actually see the settings that affect this for incident summary. So I use color number 1 when the incident is 10 minutes old, 600 seconds. I switch to color number 2 when it's 1200, which is 20 minutes. And then when it gets to be a half hour old, I switch to color number 3. Again, that's just my preference. You could set these to really high time values if you effectively don't ever want them to be used. Here in preferences though, the big thing that it's important to make sure is set is your time zone. And in particular, you need to make sure your time zone here is set to match what your computer, what your web browser thinks your time zone is. Like I said before, there are things going on behind the scenes with JavaScript and whatnot, updating things on your screen. And if the database server sends something to your browser that's in a different time zone than what your browser is processing it in, some really weird stuff can happen. So just make sure your time zone is set correctly here in Skylog. So 2 quick other things I'm going to introduce here, and then we're going to wrap this video up. The tactical display is one of the more recent kind of neat additions to Skylog. What used to happen was I would sit on the incident summary screen, and that would be kind of my home, where it would refresh once every minute as long as I wasn't doing anything, and I'd see whatever updates my teammates were making to the event that we were working together. Of course, that screen only shows things that have to do with incidents. It doesn't show, the statuses of stations that are checked in on the net. It doesn't show things that are just log entries. For example, if N9BBB is checked out because he's gone home for the day or he's just leaving, I wouldn't see that on incident summary. But here in tactical display, I'll see that he disappears from the station list that's on the right side of the screen, and I'll see the log entry down here at the bottom saying that he checked out. And by the way, if you didn't just catch that, I used another one of those colon commands. I did :co/N9BBB. As you might guess, there's a :ci command that I can use to check them back in. These colon commands actually are documented. If you hit the documentation link, there's actually a page here for colon commands, and it actually opens up, that's a little bit big for my recording screen here, let me shrink this down. It actually opens up as a separate window so that if you want, you can keep it on your screen elsewhere and refer to it while you're using Skylog. So you can see :ci here, which I've used, :co, which I've used. I could use :ei to edit an incident rather than clicking on it. You also saw me use :ni before. So if you want to get fast at it, here's your reference for all the commands you could use. Also, before we go, I just want to make mention of the station summary screen. This shows you a rundown of all of your last known statuses and locations of all of the stations that are in Skylog. And of course, here I could check N9BBB back in. Now he's back on the top part of the screen. And then we have mentions here of how long ago the station was last updated so that you know how recent that information is. So I'm going to end here by going ahead and closing out the 2 incidents that I've created. As I'm sitting here recording this, I've still got some time before that fake severe thunderstorm warning were to expire. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it just to get it off my screen and clean up. So as you might have seen when I was looking at the colon command summary, :cl can be used to close an incident. And then also I will close out incident number 5. And now I have no open incidents left. So there you have it. That is our brief introduction to Skylog. And we'll come back and go into more in-depth topics over time. Thank you for watching.